What is up, Mike? Thank you so much for jumping on the AIM podcast.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, Doug. I'm excited to be here.
Dude, I'm just kind of set the tone with this episode, man. You're a legend. I think right after you and I talked about you coming on the podcast, you had posted a video on Instagram of you doing a Turkish get up with 185 pounds. And I just, for people listening that one, don't know what that is, I want you to explain it. But two, I don't think they realize how difficult that is. I'd love to hear about this because this has kind of been something you've been doing. And it's been really cool to see you just continue to excel in the Turkish get up stuff.
Yeah, thanks so much. I mean, the Turkish Get Up is it's a movement that plays to my strengths a lot of times, but it's a total body mobility, strength, coordination, like focus movement where you're starting on your back with a weight. Usually it's a kettlebell in one hand, and then you come up to stand, and then you lower back down to the position where you're on your back, and the weight's just above your chest, like you're going to do a chest press. So it forces you to kind of do a sit-up crunch in the beginning, come to a kneeling position, do a lunge with weight over your head, and then reverse that back down. So yeah, I've been doing Turkish get-ups for a while, and I really love the challenge of seeing how far and how heavy I can kind of push that.
I love it. And even beyond the weight, like you've had the odd object challenge too, where you were doing Turkish get ups with like like a rower. You did a rower, you did a echo bike, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like keeping it fun. I mean, I really love keeping fitness fun. For me, I can get bored just like with the monotony of it at some times. And I've definitely gone through that whole cadence myself, competing and whatnot. But yeah, Turkish get-ups are a fun way. I like to do them with my friends with odd objects. I just did my body weight the other day, the 205 pounds. I think I might go for 225 purely just on my ego, wanting the two plates on both sides, but then I'll probably call it from there.
I love that, man. I think it's incredible. The really interesting thing about the Turkish get up in my eyes, and I think you can probably unpack this, is the mental component of that movement. I think a lot of times you can go in the gym, you can push weight, you can move around, but something that requires that much focus and balance really fires a lot of the mind. And I think that's where you're getting kind of both elements. You're lifting extremely heavy weight, which your body's, using your strength element, but then also the mind that if you do one wrong movement or like take off for a second, I'm sure that's probably a dangerous movement to be doing that kind of weight.
Yeah, totally. I mean, what you're speaking of, I'm sure you've chatted about on the podcast before, but it's a lot of flow state. And so the way I like to describe flow state is from a positive psychology background, which positive psychology, for people who don't know, is well, I guess I'll describe regular psychology first. Is usually people are like, something's wrong with me, I'm not feeling 100%, I want to go talk to someone and kind of get back to normal, whatever normal is. Positive psychology is like, things are pretty good. I'm like at like 80%, 85%. My life's going well, but how do I close that gap and really get to 100% and like live as strong and vital as possible? Mm-hmm. And so one of those ways is by incorporating more flow state into your life. Flow state is what you're talking about with the Turkish get up, where you're just so dialed in. They talk about it a lot with musicians or athletes. And the easiest way I like to describe it is if you think of a graph, and on one axis is the skill, and on the other axis is the challenge. And so in order to be in flow, you want the challenge to require all of your skill. If you don't, like for you, for example, it's marathon gazelle. Like if I'm like, all right, Doug, today's workout is, one lap around the track, just jog one lap, that's your whole workout. Right? That challenge is too low for your skill, and so you'll be bored. But if I tell you, okay, your workout is a 100-mile race just around the track, I'm sure you could push through it. Maybe, okay, we'll say, 1,000,000 miles around the track. That's too high for that challenge is too high for your skill, so you'll become anxious. And so if I tell you, okay, maybe it's just a marathon around a track instead of around a course, that is going to be just enough challenge to require you to bring all of your skill, and then you're dialed in on every single lap and every single step. And so with the Turkish get up, you're right, you have to be totally focused the whole time. You can't just muscle through it. It's precision with strength, which is really what I love to chase.
That's incredible. The flow state, I'm so glad you brought that up. That's such an interesting thing we could talk about. Devin, I'm sure you know Devin LeVake, someone I've been talking to, and he's doing an insane challenge right now where he's summiting the highest peaks in the world, and he just finished the one in Africa, and he was talking about flow state, and he came out and put some content out about it. But I think that's so interesting, finding just different ways to get into that state. What are some other ways you think people can find that flow state?
Yeah, great question. And I'm going to kind of take it a little different direction, because a lot of times it gets talked about through athletics and through music.
Right.
And the thing is, flow state can really be at anything in your life, as long as you can get creative. You could get into flow state washing the dishes. You could get into it brushing your teeth. You could get into it cooking dinner. It's just a matter of how much presence you can bring to whatever it is that you're doing. And the more present you are in your life, the better and happier and healthier life you can live. Um, and so, for example, if it's brushing your teeth, right? It's something people do hopefully multiple times a day. And so usually it's kind of mindless. Maybe you're doing something else while you're brushing your teeth and there's not a lot of presence there. Versus if you're brushing with your non-dominant hand, maybe you're standing on one foot, maybe you're trying to brush in a certain direction, is focusing on each tooth, maybe a weird example, but it helps bring you into that purpose and that flow state. Same thing with cooking. Can you ingest all of the scents, the smells, the sensations, the touch, the aroma, and like lover essence of cooking a beautiful meal, and maybe even setting a beautiful table. All of those things just give you so much more out of your life.
Yeah, I agree. I want to talk kind of more about the benefits because I think that's something as a society, I feel like we neglect like just our intentionality in the moment. And we just kind of life gets busy and we just kind of go through these highs and lows and we just kind of move quickly. I think there's a lot of value to unpack about like putting yourself in a situation where you're extremely hyper aware of your surroundings and like what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, those are like flow hacks. If I put you in an airplane, put a parachute on you and push you out, immediately you're in flow state, right? It's like you have no other choice but just to focus on, I hope to God this parachute works, and that when I pull this thing, it's gonna pop. Or if I'm doing a Turkish get up with 205 pounds, like I'm in flow state no matter what. But the real challenge I feel like is when you can get into it driving your car, having a conversation, in everyday life, because that's when you can really apply it into those different, things that really matter.
No doubt. No doubt. Well, I kind of want to hear more about, before we really dive into this episode and where we want to take it, hear more about like what you do from a coaching standpoint, a mindfulness standpoint. What kind of got you into health and fitness and, just wanting to be driven and motivated to dive into mindset as well? Like what kind of sparked that interest and how did you get into this whole game?
Yeah, thanks for asking. I've been an athlete my whole life. My mom would say I never met a ball that I didn't like. I just played like every sport, and I really wanted to be a strength and conditioning coach, working with high level athletes when I was out of college and even in college. I was fortunate enough to get an internship with the New York Jets and was working with their strength and conditioning staff for 2 training camps, and got to work with some incredible athletes. And so that transitioned into working out in Los Angeles, helping guys with the NFL Combine. And so, the 40s, vertical jumps, all those different metrics. And so I was really blessed to be at such a young age working with high level athletes and training my eye on those details. Because, as someone's running full speed for 4.3 seconds, you got to be able to really pick up what their knees doing, what their ankles doing, what their hips are doing, so you can help coach them so you can even run faster. I moved that back into New York and was working at a strength and conditioning facility there, working with a lot of high school and college athletes. But around that time, I really started to get into what's between the ears, like why do people do the things that they do, and it was fun getting people bigger, faster, stronger, moving from JV to varsity or from varsity to college scholarship. But I was really ingesting and leaning into the mindfulness aspect, and went off on a lifetime study of what makes people happy and healthy and what are the best tools in order to do that. And so that took me down like so many different modalities. Started studying yoga, teaching yoga, traveled the world, various different cultures, asking and learning about the same question. Um, Came back, really got into, like I mentioned, yoga, acrobatics, a lot of different flow states, meditations, breath work, just studying the gamut, all different things about human and performance. And what I found out is, and what's, maybe sounds, well, it's really just true, is that like love is the reason that we do everything. We want to be loved, we want to feel love, we want to give love, we want to serve. And so what are the best ways in order to do that? And how can I like make it as direct as possible?
That's incredible. I think it's so cool to see how different events, different seasons of your life have kind of led up to these moments, and you've probably taken different things from each phase and kind of compiled it, and that's why you're such a beast right now. But I love that. And the cool thing about what we do with AIM and our platform is we like to talk about the idea of, just being ambitious, right? It's a mindset. It's choice. You can wake up in the morning, you might not be motivated, but you can be disciplined, and you can say, I'm going to have ambition today. But I think the beautiful thing about a mindset is it can be applied to anything. Like I love health and fitness, just like I'm sure you do, but health and fitness isn't my life. It's just an element of my health and fitness. It's just an element of my health. And I use my mindset and apply it to health and fitness, just like I could apply the same mindset to my business or the podcast or whatever that looks like. So I want to hear kind of your thoughts on just mindfulness practices and healthy mindset, and how obviously health and fitness is important, but how you can apply it to different areas of your life. But that's kind of the foundational piece that you have to kind of get in check before going off on different avenues.
Yeah, yeah, I love that you're mentioning that point. It's really defining for yourself what it means to be healthy. And I use like a holistic health model where I look at your physical health, your emotional health, your environmental, social, financial, all these different aspects of what makes a person them. Physical obviously is in there. And a lot of times people and men really focus on two buckets. It's like my physical health, which is how strong am I? How does my body look? How can it perform? How do I recover? Sleep, nutrition, all those things are just like one piece of a pie that has like seven other slices. And so taking a strong, ambitious mindset and putting it into, how am I feeling emotionally? How am I able to show up in my friendships, relationships, partnerships, all those different aspects is where things can really become special for people. And so the question I ask and what I work a lot with my clients on is they're usually like really ambitious guys who will want to get the most out of their life, but have focused on business and fitness and have, maybe not focused as much on their emotions or like their heart space. And so the analogy that I love to give is, if you want to jump higher or, get stronger, you understand that these are the exercises I need to do. These are the sets and the reps and the rest and the recovery, like all that makes sense. But if I want to have a better relationship with myself, or I want to work on my, emotional health, what are the exercises that I do? What are the sets? What are the reps? Like, it doesn't make so much sense. Like, do I just meditate every day? For how long? It can become overwhelming, and then you don't feel as successful, and so you push it aside.
Right.
And so helping people, decide, okay, what are the best mindfulness exercises for you at the time that you are in your life, with the space that you have, and with the goals that you want to achieve.
That's incredible. So you obviously are doing this with individuals. I think you do small groups as well. You kind of have both options.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. And then in terms of the coaching itself, are you like, I guess I'd love to hear more how that works. Like someone can come to you if they want to work with you, and they kind of lay out kind of their lifestyle, what they have going on. And then you're able to kind of dissect that. And like you were saying, depending on what part of their life or where they might need the most help, you can kind of cater towards those needs.
Yeah, exactly. So I work with people on right now like a 2-month container. So it's like we really dive in those 2 months, and I try to build a proverbial toolbox for that person and help them gain a lot of these exercises and habits and patterns that then when we're done working together, they can continue in their life. But in order to do that, I need to learn as much as I can about them. And so I have a pretty intensive like intake questionnaire where I look at their life and all those different aspects, right? their physical health, their emotional, their social, spiritual, environmental, a few more, and then decide, okay, what are the aspects here that are going to be the most important, and kind of like kill the most birds with one stone. I don't really love that analogy, but if you know, we know what I mean. And so, if someone, for instance, is like, I want to like make more money, I want to be more successful, I want to have a six pack, I want to crush at the gym, want a bunch of girls, I want blah blah blah, whatever. But I'm only sleeping 4 hours a night, then, and I'm maybe ingesting, 10 hours of social media a day. Really defining why it is that you want to have those goals. Like, what does that actually mean? What does success mean? What kind of legacy do you want to live? Really diving deeper into those questions solves a lot of anxiety for people.
I love that. Something that you kind of sparked this idea, and I want to hear kind of your thoughts about it, but like really understanding yourself and like learning more about who you are as a person. I think a lot of times, even just like reflecting on my own life, like I feel like certain times I've just kind of been doing like pursuing a goal or going after something or a challenge, but I haven't necessarily been in tune with myself. Like how does your coaching or things that you can bring out really help people just like maximize the most of their life, or like what they can get out of themselves?
Yeah, it really creates a space by a slower pace. And so we live in such a fast-paced society. I love that line. My girlfriend really quoted it. It's like creating a space for more a pace for more space in your life, so you can really see what it is that you want to do, and then direct your life towards that. And if we don't create that, especially if you're a really ambitious individual, then you're motivated, right? Like you watch these videos, you listen to these podcasts, you're like, I just want to do something. I just want to do stuff, want to go. And that's great that you have that energy. And then it can be, detrimental in some aspects if it's not directed towards the way that you truly want. And so one of the best tools that I love to give people in order to do this is by eliminating one word in their language. And so, if you're the individual out there listening to this that is worried, doesn't really know the direction that they should go, is struggling to find, should I do this job? Should I do that? Should I move to this place or that place? Creates a lot of anxiety and a lot of looking externally out into the world for the questions that are on the inside. The first step is obviously to eliminate some of those distractions and spend more time focusing on yourself with things like journaling, breathwork, meditation. But another easy tool is to eliminate the word should from your life. So when you do that, you create a lot more ownership for your life. Should is a gray word. It's based on someone else's expectation. And so if you're living your life based on what you think you should or shouldn't do, then you're living off of someone else's expectation, whether that's what you read on Instagram posts, what you see on TV, on YouTube, whatever. And so by eliminating the word should and inserting the words want or don't want, you immediately take ownership over your language, which then helps you take ownership over your actions and then ownership over your life.
I love that. I think that's incredible. I also think that there's a lot to say about really peeling back the layers of, the goals and stuff you set out. Like when you just that another thought on what you said, guys come to you and they're like, hey, I want to make money. I want to get fit. I want to do all these things, but like, why? And I think that's kind of what you're saying is like, if you can peel that back, I think that's where you find that true motivation, that true like base layer that you can build your life on. Because I think it's easy to just say, oh yeah, I want to do this or that, but why do you want to do it? Is it for other people? Or is there a reason deep down inside where you truly want to make yourself a better person? And I think that's an important concept to unveil and then really dive in. So I'm sure working with you is amazing because you can help people do that.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's really it's making yourself a better person, but why do you even want to do that? Right. And so the real power comes from service and comes from, okay, what do I want to bring and how do I want to serve people? Like for you, it could be, I'm really motivated to help people with this podcast. So you wake up every day excited to like talk to new guests and learn about new people and learn ways that you can, provide a service to your listeners that are going to help them live a healthier and happier life. That motivates you a lot more than, something else might, because it's service minded. And so finding out, what is the way that I want to serve my community and the planet on a larger level, really puts like that rise and shine grind like to a whole new meaning.
I love that. Yeah, it's incredible. So if somebody just came to you right now and was like, "Hey, Mike, like I want to change my life. I want to make some improvements." Obviously, I know it would be better for you to have like more detail about their environment, what they're going through. But what are some just best practices that you could just drop on this podcast right now? A couple quick things that they could take away and make an immediate impact in their life today.
Yeah, I think one of the main ones is the eliminating that word should. It's so simple, and a lot of the things I'm going to say are really simple. And the more I've been in this game for over a decade, working with people in this way, it's getting really good at the basic stuff. Um, the right amount of sleep, the right hydrating, creating your thoughts, surrounding yourself with positive people that are going to be uplifting you and encouraging you, moving your body. Um, all of these different factors are extremely important in living that healthy and happy life. And so at the same time, one of it's been like scientifically proven through a lot of different ways that there's one trait that hands down, head and shoulders above everything else, improves your overall well-being. This is out of the University of Pennsylvania, and it's gratitude. So
Mm,
gratitude gets a lot of talk for a great reason. It's like number one. It's the goat of like, being happy and healthy. And so truly feeling gratitude, though, it can be really challenging for people, especially during tough times. We're recording this right like Christmas Eve, and the holidays can be a difficult time for people. And so, we don't want to, what is it called? Like positivity wash over stuff where it's just like everything's good, but really allow ourselves to feel we want to feel. But being able to find gratitude in the smallest things really can make a difference in your life. And I'll share a quick practice on how I love to do that.
yeah.
It's called the 4 W's. And so it's writing down 3 things every day of what went well and why. And the why aspect is the most important one because it forces you to take that ownership over the positive things that happen in your life. And so if you're in a darker time or a darker season in your life, it can be really beneficial to see, hey, you know what? There are positive changes that I can make, and that kind of, help me step into the man or the person that I want to be.
I love that, man. I think that's amazing. Gratitude is huge, and it's something that's like it's such an easy, no, I shouldn't say easy. It's in a real way that people can truly change their mindset if they choose to have that. And I think like you can wake up and be having a bad day, and everyone's human. Like we're gonna wake up some days and just not be feeling it. But I think just having that small shift and saying, I'm not having the best day, but I'm super grateful that I even like my eyes open this morning. Like I think that just instantly just kind of like changes the game. But being able to find that is really powerful. And I think just being mindful again, like kind of full circle with what you do and a lot of things you talk about is just being extremely mindful and aware of that gratitude, I think can truly change the trajectory of your life over the course of time.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I would say for someone that wakes up and isn't feeling great, it's like you got to change up your space. You got to get a state change, right? Talk a lot about ice baths in my world and hot cold showers. That's one that you turn that shower on, bam, you're not thinking about anything else but this cold water. And then that starts to parlay into, other positive things where maybe you're drinking a ton of water. Now you're going to go outside, get some sun on your face, sun into your eyes, go for a walk. And then all of a sudden that just starts unlocking different things inside of your head and inside of your heart that might get you out of that, that other maybe negative space that you woke up in. Um, I'm careful with saying this because our emotions are on a spectrum. And so a really important concept to understand is that if you want to feel the highest highs, you also have to be able to feel the lowest lows. And understand that your emotions aren't you. They're just things that kind of move through you. And so if you start to feel down or start to feel, upset or whatnot, to not demonize that, but just realize that that's normal and that's a part of life. And to, have a practice where you can kind of lean into it and then understand it's going to dissipate and you'll be able to kind of swing back. But not like kind of pushing those feelings away and not letting them truly surface or come out then stunts you in the positive aspect. And now you're kind of living in this like dull gray neutral space where you are looking outside of yourself for, validation or for energy. And you're going to be spending more time on social media, spending more time at the bar, spending more time, looking outside.
No, I love that. I think that's so true. Another thing I'll even add to the gratitude thing is a lot of times, and like I look back through my life, and the harder seasons or the harder times, like in the moment it was difficult, but like I'm more grateful for those times, like right now in today's, like in this moment, this present moment, I'm more grateful for the hard times that I went through than I am the good times. And maybe that's not the right way to look at it, but honestly, like it's put me in this position. It's shaped my mind. It's shaped, how my outlook on life. And it's just made me appreciate how everything's an opportunity. It's just all how you look at it. And I truly think that hopefully can help someone out there that might be going through something, difficult in their life.
Yeah, I think everyone's going through something difficult too. It's
Yeah.
just like, and so, yeah, I love that you said that, because that's true universal. In all the groups that I've ever run or been in, the best times are the darkest times, because they lead to the growth. It's very similar to working out, right? Like you do a heavy back squat set, you wake up the next day and you're really sore, right? It's the same thing with your, mental or emotional strength. You're going through a season where you're struggling, but you stay with it, you focus on it, do your practices the best that you can, and then you come out on the other side, you're really grateful for all of that growth. um, I recently did a wilderness quest, where I spent time outside in nature completely alone for multiple days without any food. And it kind of talk about some practices of initiation. If you're interested, I could kind of continue on that
Yeah,
path for a second, but kind of
absolutely.
shows it can be maybe a little bit out there, but it's really not. I mean, it's uh, I learned from some Native American culture, where the vision quest is, or I don't really like to call vision quest. I have respect to call like a wilderness quest, but we use the lineage that I was studying from uses the 4 directions. So, north, south, east, and west, as a way of orienting true maturity within the human psyche. And so the east would be, like when you were born, when you were a baby, and then when you die or you're a grandfather, you're an elder. The south was like your childhood, like, so like your ego, maybe you're like 5 years old and you're like, I'm hungry, I'm tired, I want to play, me type of energy. The west is adolescence, and it's really like that dark, shadowy aspect of yourself, so can be seen as like negative, but it's not. That's just kind of how we put it in, western culture. And then the north is your true north, and so it's like, what we were talking about before, the true service that I want to bring into this world. And then it goes back to the east as you're an elder, and you're helping kind of shape the community that you're in. And so we live in a really southern culture, right, where it's everything's like cars and clothes and me and business and this and that. And we also live in a north culture, but in a lot of aspects it's a false north, because just because you have a bunch of fancy cars and homes and money and businesses doesn't necessarily mean that you're a true adult, emotionally on the inside. You might be yelling at your kids or fighting with your wife or struggling with like true authentic friendships. And the only way to get there is to go through the west. You got to go through those difficult shadow of emotions. And so with a quest, you spend a lot of time doing that, going through the west by immersing yourself out in nature, with no food, just water, no phone, no journal, completely alone in the wilderness. And so when you put yourself in that space, things will come up for you, things from your past, things that you truly feel, and you'll, get some type of calling or vision for your life. Then you can come back and talk with your guide and whoever is supporting you with this quest on, how to incorporate that into your north and the true service adulthood that you want to bring into the world.
Where did you do yours?
In Taos, in New Mexico.
Wow. So you wake up, like what do you do during the day? You just kind of like hike around. What does that
Yeah,
look
good
like?
question. Right. Yeah, I was thinking the same thing too, because I have I grew up in the American culture. I have a really like ascension focused mindset of like, I want to make the most of every day. I don't want to waste any time. I want to do the best I can. And so like 3 days alone, I'm like, what am I gonna do? And it's great in some ways because it forces you to be uncomfortable. Everyone talks about get comfortable being uncomfortable, go spend 3 days alone in the woods with no food for 3 days. That's real uncomfortable because you don't have anything to do. And you also don't have the energy to do things
Right.
because you don't have any of the food. And so that's a really important part because it breaks down your ego, um, where you're forced to just be alone with your thoughts and with the community around you. Um, and so I really believe in nature as a true healing tool. And so when you immerse yourself in nature, you're immersing yourself in truth, right? Because a tree can't lie to you. The animals don't lie. They're not trying to manipulate you, deceive you. And so wherever you are, you're in a place that's surrounded by truth, which therefore helps you allow your truth to come up.
Is the 3-day duration, is that like a recommended time or is that just your choice?
That's a recommended time. Yeah. So it's really like 3.5 days because you go in and then you have your first night, second night, third night. But for people that are interested in this, I went through the School of Lost Borders. There's a couple other schools. Animas Valley is another one that do this. They usually do it in large groups, or they're not large groups, but they're groups of people. Um, and so you go out, you learn the practices, then you quest for 4 days, 3 nights, and then yeah, I messed that up. It's 4 days and 3 nights,
Gotcha.
and then you come back and you integrate back into the group, and then back into your community.
That sounds interesting. I you kind of have me intrigued a little bit with that idea. So when you're embracing this kind of time with yourself, obviously in nature, are you and then you're kind of collecting these thoughts, you're taking in this time. You said you kind of go back and bring it to a guide, and that's when you have a conversation and just you're finding ways to kind of bring those thoughts into your daily life, or how is that kind of how that works?
Yeah, man, I'm just taking a moment to be really grateful because I don't usually get to talk about this stuff, but it's truly where the magic is. I really believe in what people truly need is to go back to nature. Um, but it's hard because nature doesn't work in the same way as like our business does, where it's like, this is what I do, this is how I apply it, and then this is what I get.
Right.
And or training, it works in a completely different way. So the signs and the omens that you receive aren't as like black and white as an email or something in this regard. And so they might be like an animal visiting your campsite. It might be like a breeze that blows through as you're doing a specific meditation. There are certain rituals and ceremonies that you can do on your quest, to help release things from your past and invite things into your future. um, Two that I did was a death lodge, where at night I invited certain people from my past or just different aspects of myself that were no longer serving me, and ceremoniously had my peace with them and released them from me, psychically, emotionally, really, but however you kind of want to look at it. I know energy work can kind of be a little bit weird for people, but uh, I'll come back to that in a second. And then the last one I did was an all night vigil where on the last night, I just stayed up all night at the top of this mountain peak, under the stars, um, you know, dancing, singing, elated, like the highest high that I've ever felt, like from my sports, from my lifts, from anything, just
Wow.
really feeling connected to the larger, Earth community.
That's incredible. And I definitely, so I haven't obviously done a quest like this yet, but I do relate and can definitely speak on just being the power of nature and being outside. And I grew up in a city. I grew up in Raleigh, North Carolina, the capital of Raleigh. And then obviously went to go play college basketball, Western Carolina, and spent some time in the Blue Ridge Mountains. And it really is, it changes a lot. And I think you just learn so much about, I think, the world, honestly, just by being in this, like, the most simplest form of nature. So that's cool that you've done a quest like that. That's super interesting.
Yeah, yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm currently, working on helping bring other people out into nature, um, as a guide, and have done it with a few of my clients. It's really the most profound way to affect change, because there's so much truth. It can be hard doing, listening to a podcast or like doing a phone call or a coaching call, and then you go right back into your regular life. And so a lot of times we need that like initiatory period where we can really dive into it and then, gain support from the allies that are surrounding us, our friends, partners, family. to continue on the path that we feel is true for us.
That's incredible. I want to know a little bit more about that, because you brought it up, and this is something I was actually curious about. With some of your clients, I've noticed you've gone on trips, and you guys have done stuff in person and gone to different places. What does that look like, and how do you structure those outings?
Yeah, yeah. Thanks for asking. So, with some of my clients, we do like one-on-one retreats, and so we'll pick a certain space, a certain spot. They've been in the U.S. Where we can be in nature, we can have a lot of adventure and a lot of fun, and create that like ideal weekend, or 3 or 4 days for them. And so I was recently in Hawaii doing one with a client. I've done some in Colorado and Arizona as well. Um, they're like, we're mountain biking, and then we're doing, mountaintop meditations or journaling practices or breath works, or, having different conversations that in a new space that can just allow those things to hit a little bit deeper. I think people can resonate with like when they're on a trip or they feel something, uh, that feeling and that like that gut knowing can then really transform and lead to change. And so by putting yourself in a new environment and investing in yourself in that way, then you can receive those downloads from whatever higher power you believe in, and then you can use those to go affect change in your life at home.
Well, that's incredible. We got to go on a trip sometime, man. I'd love to do some of these things.
Oh, dude, 100%. Yeah, come out to Colorado. Yeah, it's a big reason why I live here. I used to live in Manhattan, and I love New York, but it's hard to be out in nature, and so you're surrounded by a lot of that energy, which is really like enthralling and like addicting in a lot of ways, because it's like high energy and that's fun, especially for someone with, a type A personality. Um, but at the same time, it can also really be, soul draining, because you're not around nature, so you're just surrounded by those buildings. And finding times to get out, if you do live in a city, finding times to get out into a park, take your shoes off, put your bare feet on the grass, get to the side of the cities, maybe by the water, gaze out into it. It does so much for yourself on a soul level. And I believe we live in a really egocentric society, and I believe what we need is more soul centric. And that's
Mhm.
just a huge paradigm shift of how we view all aspects of our life and all decisions that we make.
Wow. Yeah, that's good. I love that. I really do. I personally am like a huge fan of water. Like, I love the ocean. I love lakes. I love rivers. I don't know what it is, dude. I just love water and being out around nature. So that's kind of like my outlet and escape. I love being near like a lake or an ocean or something like that.
Yeah. And what it is your soul, crying for that truth. It's like it loves that. And
Yeah.
so lean into that, man. Like, put yourself in a place where you feel most optimized, and you feel like, the best version of yourself. That's not only going to serve you, but serve everyone else.
No, that's super good, man. I love what you're doing with your clients, and the way you're impacting as a coach. What are some of your personal goals or challenges that you're seeking out right now, you're maybe potentially working on?
Yeah. So, I mean, the physical one I'm working on is, um, I'm not going to give too much away on it, but I will say it's the Turkish Get Up world record. So there's um, a specific record there that I'm training for and working on setting in 2022. Um, and then other things are just maintaining more presence in my life. I'm in a beautiful relationship right now, with a woman that has a 5-year-old son, which is a new experience for me, and so brings its own different challenges and opportunities for just different types of loving connection. And so really leaning into that, and as well as continuing the coaching and guiding work that I've been doing. Um, it's a ton of fun. I know it can seem maybe a little bit like heavy at times, but it's that grind. I mean, I really just love equating it to the training. I love that you're an athlete, because it will make sense for you, and
Right.
I imagine a lot of your listeners. Whereas it's like, those 6 a.m. wake ups where it's like you're tired, but you just go outside and do your run anyway, or you get into the gym. Like, it's not the glamorous stuff, but it leads to like, running the PR marathon and like, the game day. And so it's the same thing with all of your introspective work. Like, yeah, it's not fun to just like meditate or go sit in the grass, or go look at the sunrise or the sunset and go to sleep early. But it does so much more for you, when you do meet your partner, or when you are engaging with your friends and you're able to maintain that eye contact and that presence. Like, people feel it. And what I was going to say earlier with the whole energy idea is, like, everyone believes in energy. We all understand it. We just might call it vibes. We might just get along with people in a different way. But I kind of, the example I love to use is, if you're in a room and you're working on a computer and someone walks in behind you, maybe they're really upset, you can feel that before you even turn around and look at them. And so, or if you go out and you meet a friend, for a yoga class or a drink, or something, and there's something going on, if you're in tune with yourself, you can feel that energy right away. um, and so then it can help you just connect with people and yourself on a deeper level, which at the end of the day is what I think we all really are looking for: some more love and more connection.
I agree. I love that. And I love that you brought up energy, because that's something I'm really passionate about. I love talking about like energy, creating opportunity, and you being high energy can be such a positive thing in other people's lives. A lot of people need it. But I love that. I love that you're doing that. I get a lot of positive energy from you. I think you are doing a killer job in everything you're doing. So I just want to encourage you to keep going, man. And really appreciate you jumping on the AIM podcast. This has been a fun episode and a really insightful conversation to a lot of interesting things that I think are going to really make an impact and help a lot of people.
Awesome, man. Yeah, thanks so much for having me. And I as well get a lot of motivation from you, and the high energy that you bring. And yeah, I'll just continue to say, like, bring the high energy when you have it, and when you don't have it, it's also okay and totally normal. Just rest, recover, and it'll come back.
That's it, man. I love it. Thank you so much, Mike. You're a legend. Appreciate you, man.
Yeah, thank you so much. Appreciate it.